Hold on. Good morning. Here I am. Welcome back. Welcome back to Who Am I? I wasn't going to do a show this morning. And then I started thinking about the current events of my time, of my people, of this current administration. And I thought to myself that maybe it was important to get on the record of, explaining a perspective on what is going on. And why, I don't know. There's so many places it would be lovely to push back against what's going on. But the fact is the better way to approach this, because resistance is futile. Resistance is futile. If you go in there all resisty, you end up, in some ways, you end up giving fuel, fire to the problem that you're facing. So rather than do that, I have decided that I will do what I always do. It just spurred me on to, I was thinking about not doing the show, and then I thought, you know what? This is going to be my contribution to peace and sanity. We need to step back a number of steps and understand what it is we're looking at. And if we did understand what we were looking at as Americans, we could fix what we're looking at pretty quickly. But when we don't understand what it is that the problem is, it's very hard to fix the problem. And when you come at it from I'm agitated because I am looking at a problem, right there you are disconnected from your source. You are. There is at least a thread, and usually it's a very serious thread of you is disconnected from source, and so there is a tainted aspect. In any given moment, when you are anything in the negative emotions. Are you a fan of the show? Have you ever listened to my show before? I have hundreds of videos that I've posted. They're in the can. You could go to the channel and check them out if you were interested in this blather. I've been doing this this is the second year. I started last January, posting my show, Who Am I? Now I'm very hard to find. I'm on a very obscure, arm of the internet. I don't label my shows very well. And so the crowd doesn't get wind of them. But if you are interested, you could go and check out the hundreds of episodes of me trying to pull this whole integrated perspective together. My favorite subject, source energy, and specifically the inner being. I love talking about the inner being, the vibrational other aspect of you, and how it relates to cosmology, especially as seen through the new physics of Nassim Haramein. Now that, in a nutshell, is my favorite arena. That's where I like to go talk. That's where I like to think. That's where it's a good place to pull a wholeness picture together so that you're looking at yourself in a set of allness, It's just helpful to go there. Besides that, it is my theory, it is my deep-seated belief that all of our problems are being caused by us not understanding who we are. Now this relates to, I was thinking about this morning, and very, very briefly, I'm going to snap over to here. I was thinking about, so I'm going to put them up on the screen for just a second if my mouse will quit jumping. the five kleshas. The five kleshas from Buddhist philosophy, considered to be, by the Buddhists, the root cause of all suffering. Not knowing what's real, that's the first one. How does that relate to our little show and our little discussions every day about who am I? Grasping and clinging to the unreal, being afraid of the unreal and recoiling from it, identifying with an imaginary self, and fear of death. Now, I see this, I would put slight different emphasis on this. But I was thinking about it this morning, and I'm going to take the screen off. I'm going to go back to my backyard fireplace, because we're just sitting, in our case, we're sitting on the backyard. We've made a roaring fire, and dawn is getting ready to crack over the... Now, you imagine when you look at this picture that it's the sun is setting, and soon you're going to be sitting in the darkness with this gorgeous, raging bonfire in front of you, right under this dry autumn tree. But it is beautiful, and the leaves are falling into the fire. Anyway, who am I? Who am I? My theory is that all of our problems are being caused by us not knowing who we are, by us not understanding our biotechnology, by us not understanding the properties of the field that we are a part of. A matrixed together energy field is actually held together by a sort of fluid plasma made of plonks. And where the plonks organize in the field, we see matter. We see planets. We see atoms. And I'm sorry, I got a little frog in my throat, and my voice is already low. Any little froggies or desert toads or whatever make pitch my voice down another note or two. So this field that we all are, the way we are matrixed together, it actually matters. It links our mind, our little mind, and the cosmic mind together. That's one of the ways to look at that is your cosmic mind, our cosmic mind, because it's ours, it's us. I say it's me, I am the universe. I am all of you too. And you are all of me. And in English, how do we actually express that? We use the word we. We are a thing. Now, having said that, we are the we that we are, but the only cell that you actually have full autonomous control over is the body you inhabit. So it's interesting, as opposed to operating the rest of yourself, outwardly or forcefully. What you're supposed to do is you're supposed to operate your own equipment optimally. And how does that work? Well, who knows? Who knows, you ask? Well, I'll tell you who knows. The one who knows is your vibrational larger self. That's the one who knows. And if you know that there's someone inside of you that knows, even when you don't know, this all goes to the, so I get all excited, and I have this presentation, and we are a binary self. We are the cosmic self and your cosmic vibrational self, and then you are your conventional physical self, the one everybody thinks about, the one that is going to die. You are that self too. That is true. And when you spend a lot of time over there, identifying over there and focusing over there, well, so with the kleshas, the fourth klesha is identifying with an imaginary self. I think the problem is more overly identifying with your physical self and neglecting to identify with your cosmic vibrational self. You know, it's almost like not identifying with your imaginary self. I'm air quoting the word imaginary because it's not your imaginary self at all. It's just your vibrational self, your big self, your cosmic self. Identify with that one. And do you know who that one is? That one is actually the one at your mind's eye. At your mind's eye. There is a mind's eye that you have that is produced by your physical mind, maybe. I don't know. I don't know if there really is one of those. I think your mind's eye is actually your eternal self. The one that if you could imagine away your body, you're still sitting there. You're there. Close your eyes. In your mind, that you're there. I think of our consciousness as being a front row seat to the eternal parade of life and existence and all of that. And so the fourth klesha, you know, the identifying with an imaginary self, I don't think that's really it. I think that it's overly identifying with your expirational self, the one who is made of meat and going to pass, likely. Unless you figure out in her lifetime the secret of coherence, the secret of how to line up with the field, to have the field assist you in your maintaining your coherence past what others might think that the expirational time is. And how do you do that? You know, what impulses are you following? What thoughts are you thinking? How are you lining up with your greater self? Your greater self is not just us, by the way. Us, I'm talking to human beings probably. It's not just us. The we who we are is the whole field. It includes, actually it ends up including all things, biological as well as not biological. Because all things in the material world are an extension of this source energy that we all are. We are all this source energy. And what is source energy and why is it located? Why is the center of this source energy anywhere? There is no such thing as the center of the galaxy, of the universe, although there is such a thing as the center of the universe. It's just that the matter located in the universe is churning around, and it sort of like a smoothie. It's a toroidal churning flow. Now the immediate cause, the first cause, not the immediate, the original cause of that was what we call the Big Bang. But the Big Bang wasn't a singular incident that just happened to our universe, and there's only one universe, and it's our universe, and so there was one Big Bang. We can't explain how it happened, but there it was. That's not what happened. If you study, actually, when I say the word study, there's a show he's got over on Gaia, and I don't know if you in the audience, if you've ever watched the show. It's called Quantum Revolution. You can see the first episode on YouTube for free. You don't have to go to Gaia to get it. And if you have never done the Gaia thing, you could do a week free trial, watch the show real quick, and then, unsubscribe so that you don't get charged if you want to do it that way. I don't know how else you watch this, how you study this, but there's a lot of his stuff over at the International Space Federation, and I would just, Google that and then go to their main website. I can't remember what the URL, the actual one is, but he's not hard to find. International Space Federation, Nassim Haramein, and you'll get right to it. You'll also find websites, where there's people trying to tell you that he's a kook, and that his math doesn't work. His math absolutely works. His math absolutely works. And if you are really smart enough to understand what he's saying, there's plenty of stuff on YouTube for free that you could look at. His The Origin of Mass and Nature of Gravity paper, and then there was a whole YouTube video explaining that paper. It's 37 minutes long and very technical. I like the quantum revolutions because it tells you from a layman's perspective. It describes the shape and nature of the connected universe, how it is connected, how we are connected to one another. It's through the Planck field that every Planck instant is communicating with itself, is updating its wholeness information. It's a whole thing that is moving through time, that is manifesting through us, through our thoughts, through our actions, through our understandings. And if we would but better understand who we are, what our biotechnology is, how it works, how to take the freaking advice of our oversoul, how to understand our positive and negative emotions. On the one hand, there is an aspect of our negative emotions that is not wrong. You get an adrenal, or you get a hormonal hit from your mammalian brain about something immediate in the field around you. That causes your physical self to go into some state of negative emotion, fear or threat or whatever. Those especially come from your plain old mammalian brain. When you start fear and threat, that one's easy. You can get that one almost from your lizard brain and your territoriality and your sex drive, and I'm not sure. Let me review really quickly. Let us review really quickly the neocortex. These are the areas of our brain: breathing, avoidance, survival, territoriality. Yeah, I can see some kinds of emotions, basic emotions in the lizard brain, the mammalian brain. Those are caused by, you get a hormonal hit by something in your immediate surroundings. You get, because you're in touch with everything in your immediate surroundings. Did you know that? You don't even have to be thinking about the world around you, and you are tagged into the field around you. Your overmind knows what you want, knows where you are. And actually, in our case, as human beings, I'm going to get off of this screen. I can sit on this screen for the longest time and just completely forget myself. But we want to remember what our emotional guidance system is actually telling us by virtue of the neocortex, which is an overview kind of mind. It's the faithful servant. Our neocortex is the faithful servant that Einstein spoke of. Our intuitive mind is the sacred gift, and our rational mind is the faithful servant. We have created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. And what he's really talking about is the two selves that you are. The physical self that you are, and then you are a vibrational over-self. We all are. And quite frankly, the over-self that we all are is kind of the same over-self. It's very nearly the same over-self. But there's a key difference. Mine is anchored right here on the grid, and yours is anchored over there on the grid. And you are a collection of experiences that come from you, and it's completely different than my collection of experiences. Even if you grew up in the same neighborhood, even if you grew up in the same household, every one of us had different parents. I have 3 full siblings, and every one of us had different parents. I promise you, I had different parents from them. I'm pretty sure they all had different parents from each other too, but absolutely convinced that the parent that they remember is not the parent that I had. And it's funny that way, because it's not them that it's all coming from. And I remember when I was younger, noticing that when you're mad and now you turn and you look at the world and you try to comprehend it, it looks like one thing. And then you go back to your regular self and you look at the world and it looks like something completely else. And I recognized pretty quick that it wasn't the world that was changing. It was that the world was kind of this one steady state thing, and that when I went into a negative emotion, it went crazy. And it started reacting funny to me too. Because something different is happening to us than what we imagine is happening. And we're all flying our individual experiences into the universe that we are interested in experiencing. And if you are interested in experiencing the universe where we make it, where we get over ourselves and we learn who we are, because this display that is going on in our government, and it's going to be shocking if he starts actually trying to order our troops, to go to Gaza and start clearing it out so that we can, start the development process, And what are you going to do with those people? What are you going to do with them? You going to put them in camps? What are you going to do? I mean, if they really, so we've thought of him as a buffoon. His ideas are so ridiculous. He's so outlandish. Oh my gosh. So what's the answer here, though? There is no us and them. It is all us. He is us. And our problem is that we need to understand ourselves. And he needs to understand ourselves. And we need to understand ourselves. So that we quit pushing back against each other and we embrace and heal one another. Actually, he's a big fat wound that needs to be healed. Big fat wound that needs to be healed. And until we heal him, we are not healed. Until we understand that, the monster is us. Even though we are well-intentioned, all the crowd over at MSNBC with their hair on fire, pointing at the problem, pointing at the people smashing our democracy to pieces, and they are accurate to a point. But until we see this from a larger picture, from a larger frame that includes all of us, including the ones who are acting up, it's not just the ones who are acting up against the ones who are not acting up. It's not actually like that. It's all of us, and some of us are acting up. And if you add all of us together, we're like a schizophrenic single personality upon planet Earth that needs to come back together, needs to become itself again. One of the reasons we had a schizophrenic crack-up some 350 years ago. I should actually do the math. Is it coming up on 400 years? It is 400 years. It all depends on when you want to. It seems like Galileo was in the 1620s. And we are now 400 years past that at the 2020s. And so you could say that's when, I'm not sure when peace was made. Peace wasn't made yet. By Isaac Newton's time, he was sanctioned. The church was no longer chasing, heretics down, the scientific heretics down and throwing them in the dungeons of the Inquisition or such. by the time Isaac Newton came along. So I'm not sure exactly when you figure that time-wise, but when science and religion had to make their schism in the field of humanity, no longer was there a large, a honored institution that was seeing both sides of the equation anymore. Scientific physicists. That wasn't really, spiritual physicists. We didn't have that. They split, and humanity sort of went schizophrenic. This is why the understandings of spirituality and science have to come back together. And you might say, well, I know some people have said that that's some sort of a oxymoron, as though, science is the study of the physical world, not the spiritual world. But spirituality is just the thinner reaches of the physical world that we haven't understood. There really isn't a difference between so let's get into this. What are our emotions? What are they? It's actually your vibrational greater self giving you a read on the physical world. And depending on how you're picking that vibration up, it's never telling you, warning, it's not that. It's never giving you that vibration. It leads you away from danger, not by warning you about danger from a scared or threatened, that kind of emotion. It warns you away from danger by twinkling a shining light over here for you to pay attention to over here. And if you follow that light and follow that impulse as it tries to get you to act and get you to think over in this way, go think over here because it's cool and it's fun. And if you start thinking over here, the ideas, they start flowing in. Because what is your inner being? This is my favorite subject in the whole world. And so I finally get to the nuts and bolts of what I always want to talk about every morning. And that is the nature of our inner being. What is the meaning of our inner being? Who is our inner being? Our inner being is our greater vibrational self. It's source itself. And at the point where I find my inner being, she's mixing it up with all of your inner beings too. Which leads me to my primary personal formula. You have to play this formula. You may want to screw over somebody else because they pissed you off and life isn't fair anyway and everybody's got to deal with it, or whatever it is you're telling yourself. But the fact of the matter is that the game is not a win-lose or a lose-win. The game is a win-win. And as soon as we learn how to play that, truly learn how to play that, we will all be blessed. And our enemies will be our friends. Our enemies will not be vanquished and dead on the battlefield. Because when we do that, we create a people that don't know how to fix it any other way. And there will always be another field of dead soldiers. And I don't want dead soldiers. I want living, breathing, dancing, laughing, drinking, carousing soldiers who know who they are, who are, part of an army of engineers, of human engineers that are working with the biofield, with one another, to create for ourselves and co-create for ourselves a future of magnificence and abundance, where there is nothing but beauty and charm and nooks and crannies full of life and abundance and happy, healthy, abundant, wealthy people everywhere. how do you get rid of how do you get rid of world poverty? Well, you don't go in and remove all the poor people from the nice places and dispose of them somehow. Maybe send them to the shithole countries or whatever it was that. Oh my God, this is going to get real. I know it's going to get real. Hopefully, I don't think that everybody focuses on. It's almost like, it would all be theater if it wasn't for the bombs and the missiles and the tanks and that sort of thing, and the fact that him and his ideology and all of his buffoons now have the muscle to do things like, slug it out at the border, really tighten the border. Now, there is a spirit, perhaps, of tight border that we could have that would be, I don't know. See, I have my formulas, and my formulas say things like, well, all of our inner beings intersect. So we have to play the win-win position. Yikes. How does that work? It also, my formulas say things like, resistance is futile. Resistance is not the way. Identifying things in the material field that you don't like and walking over and pushing against them is not actually the most optimal way to swiftly bring us to the world that we want to live in. The way to get us more swiftly to where we want to go is to connect yourself to your source. And the way that you can tell that you are connected, that your vacuum cleaner is plugged in, and you're not just making tracks you're not just going through motions and making tracks on the on the carpet, you're actually sucking up dirt. Excuse me. I wish I had a cup of hot tea. The way you can tell that you are plugged into your source is that you feel good. If you're not plugged into source, then you're plugged into your focus is on the aspects of the material world that you don't like, instead of being connected to source. You can't really be focusing on both at the same time. Now, you can be aware of both at the same time, but you can't be focusing on both at the same time. So I can be connected to source while at the same time cognizant of the fact that we are in the middle of the sixth mass extinction, and America might as well be in a cold civil war. And we hope it doesn't turn hot, either amongst ourselves or between us and more people in the outside world. Like, I don't know, Gaza? I can't imagine. Are there going to be people who are going to be object to whole scale being removed from a zone so that we can go in and build high-rise condos and luxury resorts? I don't know. Is he just talking? We used to say he was just talking, and so that was all right, but that was before we freaking elected him president. So, anyway, when you go at it from that spirit, and I have to pull myself, you cannot approach it from that, you can't be angry, you can't be frightened, because your source is not angry or frightened. She's not angry at all about this. She understands exactly what's going on. And what's going on is we have a very complex nature that's going to take that has taken a few centuries for us to figure out who we are. And part of what we had to have happen was things like technology is iterating ourselves back and forth. We are reverberating amongst ourselves a bit And now, as humanity, we let, some history go by. We have some epic things happen. Like this whole shit played out 80 years ago, when a different guy, for different reasons. Now, it was the same kind of thing. People were nervous. People were frightened. And so they decided to go with a strong arm guy who promised a bit of xenophobia, some border control, some making us all great, putting us back to work or whatever. Now, we were a different people back then. Entertainment technology was embryonic still. Movies were barely talkies when the beer hall push came along. As a matter of fact, we didn't even have talkies then. I don't think talkies were in the 1923. I think they came along in the late 20s. So we're talking very early days. Hitler, 1930s, talkies had only been going on for just a few years. Just a very few years. And there was no internet. There was no television. There was radio, there was a telegraph. Things were starting to move a little faster. We were speaking to ourselves a little faster. News went around the world quicker. It used to take, the months that it took a ship to get from England to America. That was the length of time that it would take for people in America to find out something that had just been declared by King George in England. It was taking a long time. It took generations for things to happen now that, happen so quickly. The ideas of your fathers and pretty much your grandfather used to be, well, certainly your father used to be very close to what your ideas are. And now, heck, how many generations are there sitting on the planet now of humanity, all of them thinking different things? From a few of the greatest generation that still are there to I went through and saw all the list of generations. There's a lot of them, a whole bunch of them. Just since me, I'm a boomer, and then you go, I don't know. Who are they? Gen X and millennials and Y, Z, alpha. I don't even know. And every one of them sees the world differently. And actually the ones coming in now, they have no resistance to things. They're just eager. They look at what's there and they imagine what's possible. A lot of them do not have the cautionary wisdom of understanding their past. This is how come we specialize, people. You have your historians and you have your your shamans that keep in touch with, the oversoul and make sure that we are in good order with our vibrational spirit selves. And then you have the mathematicians, the ones who just love to do, and everybody decides for themselves which one of the system they want to be. Well, we need to create for ourselves a system that actually reflects who we really are and how it works. And it would be nice if it was a true meritocracy, such that, which it totally is not a meritocracy right now, but a meritocracy that goes all the way to, the baseline level is we are all part of each other and blessed. And because you're here, you deserve a place here. God would not have put you here if there was not a place for you, if there was not a way for you to be. Now, I used to really object to that philosophy, and that there was nobody that made me madder than the Duggars. You remember that lady who had 19 children and wanted more? And she had children that, I don't know, and then one of them turned out to have been molesting one of his sisters, and all that got very sordid and weird and strange. But honestly, There is something to that, because the truth of the matter is this: the world could be the words that I'm thinking that are coming to me are like belching forth, and then no, I'm like, no, that's not right. Vomiting forth, no, that's not right. Abundance, creating abundance, billowing forth with abundance. We could be a lot more abundant than we are. We could be a lot more abundant than we are being. One of the things that is really causing our constriction and the source of all of our problems is actually fossil fuel. It is fossil fuel, but we shouldn't be pushing against fossil fuel because right at the moment we need it. And so we should use it while madly in this moment trying to, in a practical way, figure out how to plug our technologies into source energy instead. And so how do you do that? Well, how you do it is you understand source energy. Isn't that how you do it? Understand source energy. What is it? It's so what is the field of reality? What is it made of, and how does it roll? How does it go from one frame to the next frame? And what determines what direction those frames are going to go? All of those are very interesting questions. And you can answer them for yourself from your life's perspective, from your perspective at the helm, at the cockpit of an HBV, a human being vehicle, navigating yourself through your spaces, through your life, through your time, through your thoughts, through your philosophy, whatever, as you navigate yourself through whatever life experience you're having. Who are you and how does it work? Actually, this is really esoteric, and I've done a really good job of getting as far as I have gotten today, and I'm gonna get farther. I know that, so space-time is spinning. It is either stochastic and canceling out to the random function. It's either, or it is spinning. But even as it is spinning, and that's a perspective from one side of the equation, from the other side of the equation, it is every Planck instant winking completely out and winking completely back in again. And in between, or at the same time, I don't know exactly when this happens, the whole thing connects to its allness. It's sort of like every position on the grid vibrationally reports its vibration up to the wholeness. And then the vibration of the wholeness reports down to all the parts. And the way it can do this is because the universe is holographic. It's holographic, and across the Planck field of every proton is encoded the information of all the rest of the protons in all the rest of the universe. And I believe it is current. It is updated every Planck instant. It is, and the information is reading slightly different from different positions on the grid, because I'm iterating the entire set of information from my position on the grid, and you are iterating the entire field of information from your position on the grid. And I promise you, there is enough room for all of us to be universe-sized equations, each where we stand, and still have room for the rest of the universe. I mean, it is way bigger than anybody's thinking that it is. It's a multiverse. And it's like what demarks the different zones is different frequencies. It's like there's the version in this frequency and the version in that frequency. And we're getting ready to diverge, I think I've heard, so that it's harder to jump from one to the other. Anyway, I'm digressing a bit. This whole thing comes back around to when you fully understand who we are and how it works. I came up with a pithy line this morning. When you align with the field will yield. When parts of the field line up with when it comes to you, it has to do with your two minds. When your physical mind, when your faithful servant lines up with your intuitive mind, then the whole world opens up. And Einstein absolutely understood that, and he was a fabulous example of the kind of brilliance that comes forth when you line up with who you really are. Anyway, I think I'm going to end early. I have to go bowling. I'm going to go over to, I'm in my studio. I'm going to go over to my YouTube studio and see if I have anybody. Average viewer duration, 1 minute and 30. I do not have anybody. So somebody cruised over here for a second, but they got discouraged. It wasn't Indigo. So that's all the more reason to end more quickly. One of my impulses this morning to broadcast in the first place was that I know. I'm sorry, my mouse is bouncing around and I'm trying to get back to my other studio. I know that I have to bring this into the field of action. I can't just think these thoughts in my head. I cannot just think these thoughts in my head. And I have been thinking these thoughts. And so I feel inclined to get on the airwaves and talk about what I think our problem is. We don't know who we are. We don't know who our negative self is, and we're holding everyone's negative self against them. And we're holding our own negative self against us instead of releasing it. You know, when you understand that it's only the positive that gets you anywhere, and you keep going negative, and then you just keep getting so mad at yourself for going negative, that's just exacerbating the problem. And the beating will continue, and the beatings will continue until morale improves. And as long as you keep beating, the morale will never improve. But as soon as you stop beating yourself and beating yourself up, and step back a few steps and realize what's going on. So I'm going to leave you with one last thought. Feel glad for wherever you are and however you feel. It's really time for you to stop being mad at yourself for where you are and start being glad for where you're going. It's really time for you to start appreciating who you are and the focused environment in which you stand. You are where you are, and where you are is just fine. But where you are will not last. And the way you choose to feel determines the direction in which you move. Because you are moving. Now, end of quote. That was an Abraham quote. And with that, I'm going to leave you and go bowling. And if you find this video tomorrow or whenever, not many people watched it live. That doesn't mean many people will not watch it in the future or some version of it. And so I wish you peace. I wish you happiness. I wish it for all of us. We're playing a win-win game, people. Let's all learn how to do that. And until tomorrow, may the source be with you.